In the 1920s, cities started to realize that they had a problem. Cars. So many cars. Many people tried to come up with solutions to the problem, but as streets crowded and parking dwindled, city planners swooped in and did what they do best. They added regulations. The two major types of regulations that were added in the 1930s were parking meters and minimum parking requirements. Parking meters worked alright, but could only regulate the parking that was already available on the street. They made cities money, but didn't increase parking supply. Minimum parking requirements, on the other hand, have come to define our cities, and most people don't even know about them. A typical parking requirement looks like this. For every X square feet of usable space, there must be Y available parking spaces. There's a lot of nuance in the way these are administered, but for now, just understand that businesses and developers are required to build parking with every new development.
In a vacuum, this solution makes a lot of economic sense. The market for parking is a bit of an odd one. There will always be demand for parking, assuming that parking is both limited and available. That is, if you own a car and you're driving somewhere, you expect there to be parking available. When there isn't, you get mad. That's why parking requirements were first imposed. Make businesses pay for parking, not the drivers. This increases supply and keeps parking for consumers free. Problem solved. Businesses will want to pay for the parking because without it, nobody will drive to their location, which, in theory, decreases their overall profitability.
This effectively managed demand, but didn't use prices to do so. With parking meters, for example, demand is actually on a curve, and drivers have an incentive to not drive to places where parking is scarce and therefore expensive. This means that people will choose to walk or take other methods of transportation. Parking becomes an elastic good. With minimum parking requirements, however, all of this is irrelevant. You can drive wherever you want and park for free. This ends up generating trips to locations with parking, increasing demand, which then eventually feeds back into the system, creating more trips, more demand, more parking, a larger incentive to drive, more driving, more trips, more parking, and the cycle continues. We end up paying for this perverse cycle in every role in life except as a driver. It affects our taxes, groceries, environment, and land use, but benefits only the driver. They never have to pay to park, and because more people drive, they get better infrastructure, which costs us money as a taxpayer, and they pay less for cars. Overall, we end up worse off, with ugly cities, parking wastelands, and more expense as a consumer, just because we don't like to pay for parking.